Welcome to Life Picks Relationships, helping you understand and enliven your marriage through the various perspectives and experiences of others who found a way to prioritize what's really important in life. From new love to those that have weathered the storms, let's get ready to take your relationships to the next level with your host, ST.
Hey Life Pixers, hope you're having an awesome day. Did you start implementing the 9 proven steps to a successful relationship? If not, after this episode, go back and listen to it. You'll be glad you did. Episode 127, here we come. But we are working on episode 200. Go to lifepicksrelationships.com and on the podcast page, you will see a place to put in all your relationship questions. Put them in there so that way they could get answered on the 200th episode with a few marriage experts. Now, I'm super excited for today's episode because it's about traveling, and you guys know how passionate I am about traveling and what it could do for a relationship and why I think it is so important. But so many people say they can't travel because it's so expensive. And it can be if you don't know how to do it right. Today's guest, Kelli, grew up going on road trips in their minivan because they couldn't afford to travel until her mom cracked the code to cheap travel. 5 stars resorts, here we come. Woohoo! And guys, you can do it too. Thank you so much, Kelli and Matt Nielsen, for being here. I am super excited. Guys, you're gonna want to go find out more about them at travelfixers.com. Their links and all their information will be in the show notes so you know exactly where to find them. Okay, now Kelli and Matt, before we get into the really fun stuff, I'm curious to know, how did you guys meet?
Yeah, actually, we grew up. It's funny you talk about travel because it's kind of the opposite. We met growing up less than 9 miles apart from each other, but we never met until right before college. We met at just like a mutual activity sort of thing for young single adults in the area, and ended up going to the same college afterwards and dated all the way through college, got married in college, and been together ever since. But our families are right next to each other. We just didn't know of each other all growing up.
So cool. So do you live near your families or you live somewhere completely different?
We do. Family lives, actually just 5 minutes before this, my parents were here. So we kicked them out. And then family lives about 30 minutes away from where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, both of them. So,
which is great with a toddler having grandparents so close nearby.
Yeah, it's like a perfect thing. It's not like 5-minute drive, like they're going to be by your house annoying you every minute.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have them when you need them, like you said, to watch your toddler.
It's perfect. It really is like perfect that way. It's like the zone they talk about in Everybody Loves Raymond, like can't bring the hot soup over zone, but they can't spend the night zone.
Exactly. Exactly. So you nailed it. Now, how did you guys get into traveling?
So that really was for me. Matt actually didn't grow up traveling very much necessarily. He was he would have road trips a lot.
We were the fam of the family that came from a bunch of road trips. We do the inaugural, the annual cross to Utah and to go see Grandma and Grandpa. And that was the extent of our traveling. I remember a few trips where we went down to California and we literally drove spring break to California.
From where?
Colorado.
Sorry.
We're in Colorado right now.
Okay.
That's where we grew up. And
there is a train that goes straight down from Colorado to California, no?
There is. It kind of winds and it's not super convenient. Not many people take it. I think most people probably drive.
Mm-hmm. So it's we did the drive once when I was a sophomore, but growing up we never really traveled. It was actually something that learned more about after we got married.
It's something that made you really nervous at first too.
Very nervous.
Yeah.
Why did it make you nervous?
It's just different. The fact, I don't speak any other languages. I'm only speak English semi well.
Sounds perfect to me.
Well, hey, it's, English is for, I only speak English, and the thought of going to another country where everyone speaks the language you don't speak is not a comfortable thing for me. And it's totally out of my element. And it's, it made me really nervous to get dropped off from an airplane, land in a completely different country, not know how to, sometimes you don't even know what the type of food they eat. You end up in a position where you can't even speak and communicate, and you're like, well, what do I do? So that aspect of it makes me nervous.
So the language, if the whole world would speak English, then you won't have a problem?
I think you would still, because the more different a culture is, Matt will sometimes struggle more. Mm-hmm. So for example, like going to England was a lot more comfortable for him because he's like, I already know certain elements of the culture are somewhat similar. The language is similar. They drive on the other side of the road, but I can handle that. Versus like Thailand, we were just saying 10 years ago, I don't think he would ever agree to go to somewhere like Thailand or Taiwan, somewhere that's very different cultural language. Like now, though he's more used to it, he's like, well, I think we could figure that out. I could go there and he would be okay with it. So he can hide the nervousness. He can work through it now.
Yep.
Maturity at some practice. So how did you get into it to start off with?
So that was really me. So I grew up, my dad was a high school teacher and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And there were 6 of us. So big family, low income, but they had really big dreams about traveling the world. My dad had lived abroad for a few years in Costa Rica. My mom had traveled a lot through college. But there just never was money to do it. So we went on some great national parks and road trips and things like that. But that kind of big travel, the big dream travel, always felt really out of reach to us. So I definitely get that FOMO that people feel of, I had these dreams about places I want to go, but they feel like this bucket list for someone else. Like it's someone else's kind of trip. Until my mom figured out how to do these trips for amazingly cheap. And we were traveling to 5-star resorts for Christmas in Mexico for cheaper than staying at the Best Western, just a state away. We're on these amazing vacations. And that's something I carried through once we had our kids and we started traveling with them. Because you always hear that all the time of like, once you have kids, you stop traveling. Yeah. It's too hard. And I really wanted to like prove people wrong. So at 6 months old, we took our first to Paris and it was such an amazing experience. I remember him learning how to crawl.
French. They like snob you out if you speak like English. Some countries you could go and like they speak half English and half the other language, but like in Paris, you're not going to get that.
No, it's different. Yeah. And that's one of the things we love most about travel is that sometimes those biases that you hear and then you go places, they're like, oh, that's actually like not what we expected. Everybody says, oh, Parisians are so snobby. And we found if you try a little bit of French, they're so delightful and they love babies. Who would have ever thought Parisians love babies? But we got to the front of every line, every restaurant, they had a baby chair, even nice restaurants they wouldn't have here in the US. And we loved it actually.
Yeah. Well, there was one restaurant we went to and they, the gal pulls out this baby chair and gives him this, half of this baguette and was like, this is how we teach children is we give them the hard end of the baguette. And it was just, it was lovely. It's totally not what I was perceiving the French people to be. It was very, 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 lack of a better word, loving group of people. It was a very friendly environment.
They're still city people. So if you stop in the middle of a sidewalk, they're still going to plow you over. But that's like, you see that in New York, you see that in London, you see that anywhere. But it's really been cool seeing how, especially with kids traveling as a family, how people react to families around the world. We've had moms in Spain pick up a crying baby for us and try to hush them so we can, finish listening to the tour guide. We've had really amazing experiences traveling with our son.
Oh, wow. Did you travel before you had kids?
I did a lot growing up. So we grew up as a family. We grew up quite a bit traveling when my mom figured out how to do it. Really the big change for me when I started talking about this more with other people was that Paris trip. We came back and we made $2,000 on that trip. And this is before I had started my blog. This is before I had started any sort of way of teaching people how to travel. And a lot of people thought, how on earth do you make money traveling? And when I started to explain it to them, I realized this sort of travel, people feel so out of reach, but it's so in reach within their budgets. Like these dream trips they can have happen. And so I started teaching people how they can do it with their budget and their dream and make these trips happen. And it's been cool because like you said, you work with dream relationships, which I feel like those match so well. So you can have these like amazing relationship building experiences on these vacations that you thought I can't afford, I can't do, but you can.
Yeah. Now, before we get into why traveling is so good for relationships, I want to know how you made $2,000 on that trip.
Yeah, I know. That's like such a good, everybody always wants to know that one. That was a few different ways. So it's like this idea, I always tell people you got to stack the deck in your favor. So if you want to travel for really cheap, or you want to make money traveling, or even get free trips in the future, the best thing to do is start stacking the deck in your favor. So if you think about a trip, it's the cost you put into it and then any cost you can make from it. So if you can get the trip cheaper to start with, any money you can make, and there's several different ways you can make money traveling, then you can balance it off and sometimes you can come out ahead, which is amazing. And even if, you end up not coming out ahead, but spending very cheap on a vacation, that still is kind of a win too, to get an amazingly cheap vacation. But for Paris, it ended up working out where we were able to kind of coordinate what neighborhoods we stayed in. We were able to find apartments, different ways to stay in that are a lot cheaper than staying at a hotel or staying at a timeshare. And that's a trick we do a lot. So we found accommodation really cheap. We have super awesome ways that we find cheap flights. And so we got a cheap flight, we got cheap accommodations. And then we were able to, when we got back, we were able to extend a day where we bumped our flight and we made money. They gave us a Visa gift card for bumping our flight. So we got paid about $1,200 each for spending a night in New York and then flying home the next morning. So the cost.
So that's where you made your money, in the bump of the flight. Is that where you tend to find, besides for obviously now your whole blog and business, but just from flights of bumping flights, is that where you usually make the most money?
Sometimes that's a really good way to make money, because airlines, I don't know how much you want to know this, but airlines make so much more money by overselling flights. So when you buy a plane ticket, you're buying a plane ticket from point A to point B, but you're not buying this particular plane ticket at this particular time to these destinations. They don't actually have you guaranteed that. So they will routinely oversell flights. So say there's like 50 seats on that flight, they'll sell 75 of them because they know certain people are not going to show up, or they're going to drop out and they can't get their refund because they bought the cheapest tickets, which we do all the time. Yeah.
Which website?
So our favorite thing we like to do is I like to use what I call flight finding sites. So these are sites that either are free or you pay a subscription to, and they just send you deals as they find them. So one of the things I think that people really struggle with is they think I can't find a travel deal because it takes me so much time to do all the research behind it. I just don't have that much time. So they pay more. But the idea is these sites will just find all the deals for you, send them to your inbox saying these flights are leaving from your airport to these places for these prices, and then you just book them.
Yeah. So in order to fly cheap, like the biggest so-called, I don't want to call it con, but it is what it is all the planning that has to go beforehand to make sure that you really could go get it cheap. If I decide tomorrow I want to go and fly off to Thailand, I'm not going to get it for cheap. I don't know nowadays in COVID what it will be like, but in normal times, because you have to really plan beforehand your accommodations and things like that.
Sometimes not. And that's like always the kind of give and take. That's where it kind of comes in art form of finding, like, sometimes it's better to book the flight first. Sometimes it's better to book the location first, depending on what the best deal is. But it's about trying, like, if you stress about saving $10 here, $100 there, versus if you could save $1,000 somewhere else, focusing on those things, we'll save $1,000 in the big places and not stress about the nickels and dimes later. Then you're not so stressed about, okay, do I book the flight first, or do I book my hotel first? It's like, okay, what do I save the most money on? Let's focus on that first. And you can find amazing last minute deals. You can find amazing plan of future deals. But if you're just kind of willing to
be flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be flexible. I like that. It's a good mindset just to have in general. Now, what has traveling done for your own relationship?
I think one of the big ones is what you were saying about just kind of opening up your mindset.
Yeah, I think in relationship with, like, I don't know, like the world in general is changing mindsets of the way you view people. I think is really changed. You hear these stereotypic, hey, this is how Parisians are. This is how this group of people is. And what I have witnessed with travel is some of it might be true, but a lot of it I don't believe is true anymore. The group of I met a very small group of Parisians when I was in Paris. It wasn't the whole country, but it was a small group. I mean, it was right in the middle of the yellow vest protests that were going on. We got caught in the middle of it, not like the middle of it, but like they were running down the street, and but it wasn't like I ever felt afraid. It was the whole experience of the Parisian people it was totally different than what I thought it was going to be. And I think relationship with the world, I've been able to realize, you know what, the thing with all these subcategories that we have for different people, if it's male, female, and all of the different categories we can fit people into, the thing that we all have in common is humanity. And part of being part of the humanity group is we're all human, and being able to look at people the way that I think we should have. Just, at the end of the day, we're all humans in this blue globe that we're trying to, let's just get along. Let's just put differences aside and take those differences and, learn from them, but not put people down because you're Parisian and I'm American, or you're from Spain and I'm not, and you've got brown hair and I've got blonde hair. And obviously I don't have blonde hair, but I think that's the thing that I think is the thing that's helped my relationship with the world is you see in the media and you see all sorts of these things of the way, almost how you should portray people, but in reality, we're humans. And I think it's really brought that human aspect back into my life. But I think with, Kelli and I, there's also been this other level of, Kelli's amazing with languages. I'm not, and I struggle. Walking into the I can't even think of the word right now. The bakeries, and in Paris, and it's bonjour when you walk in, and just to say that when I walk in, it was like really intimidating because it was something that we don't do in America. You don't walk into the 7-Eleven and say, "Hey guys, I'm here." Like, you don't do that. You just walk in, you get your stuff, and you leave. And it's this expectation really of when you walk into the bakeries or anywhere, you greet the store owner, you hey, hello, and they tell you hello back. When that was out of my comfort zone, but something I wasn't super familiar with. But I think being able and having to rely on your partner in situations like that can really bring your relationship to a stronger point if you allow it.
Yeah, I think that nails too on shared experiences too, is you have all these shared experiences where you're in these uncomfortable situations and you have to rely on each other, versus at home, you have so many more resources of friends and family and support and work, versus when it's just the two of you, essentially, in a new environment, you have to rely and trust on each other that things are done.
Yeah. Did you feel that more versus like when you were a kid, you just relied on your parents and whatever, like you don't take responsibility for what's going on, right? Well, when you're the wife and you have a kid and a husband, then it's really different, and you have to go and you're in charge, and you really have to go and learn and use each other's strengths.
I think that sense of vulnerability is there. It's, as a kid, you never fear a car accident necessarily because you trust your parents and the road are safe. Once you learn how to drive and you realize how much vulnerability there is, you start getting nervous about those sorts of things. So when you're a kid and you're traveling with your parents, mom and dad have everything. Of course, we're not going to lose our credit cards or get stuck on the wrong taxi going the wrong way.
Go to the wrong airport.
Yeah, we're not going to
go to the wrong airport. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we've done that.
We did that once.
Yeah. But you think everything's fine. And if it does go wrong and mom and dad already have it handled, sometimes you don't even know that the problem arises. But when you are together, then you have to start working with each other, and you have to rely that, when I make a mistake doing something, we have to trust each other, not get angry at each other, and just kind of, hey, what's the solution? Let's move past it. And just because we have to keep moving, otherwise we're in a worse situation.
Yeah, there's the few different parts. There's a part, first, like you said, you don't want to get in a worse situation and you only have the two of you. And then a lot of times there could be a lot of like pressure, flights, bookings, money.
Yeah. If you miss that flight and you have to buy, like you said, a last minute flight, and you don't have any other choice, you have to buy the next flight home, you might drop $3,000 each.
Yeah.
A lot of stress.
Yeah. And then your whole vacation is like, okay, that was like a ruined trip because
yes, it totally is.
Yeah. So first of all, how important do you think it is for couples to travel from your own personal perspective? And then, I don't know, from the research that you've done, and then what tips would you give to people who want to travel?
Well, I can always see from the people I work with to help them travel, or for our own experiences traveling that we've seen, is your relationship becomes so much stronger. When you have those moments, you hear that all the time, like people say, oh, if you feel disconnected from your spouse or from your partner, you should go on a trip together, reconnect, have a romantic vacation. And that can definitely happen. And the research shows that it really does happen. What happens on vacations is we have so much more leisure time than we ever have at home. We have so much more time when we're not obligated to work and chores and family and kids and social obligations and whatever those things are. And because of that, we get to spend all this extra time together, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on.
Yeah, exactly. It's like for some people, it's just a stress.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always joke my ideal vacation is any place where Matt doesn't have phone reception. Because he works so much, it's like, I love having that time where it's just the two of us, where a phone cannot ring and, interrupt our time together.
Yeah, I love just like leaving my phone in the hotel room. But the problem is like sometimes afterwards you need it for like Google Maps or something. And it's like,
yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Go back to what you were saying, that it really, for every relationship, that's what you tell your clients.
Mm-hmm. So like I have so many stories of people that making huge difference for their relationships. And, you can talk about relationships, both romantic and, other family. If you're traveling with your mom, if you're traveling with your kids, whatever that may be, it helps build that relationship. But one of the harder things that happens is that if you're not going in with the mindset of trying to be kind to each other, trying to have a good time together, then it actually can flare up those negative emotions. So it's really important when you're going on this vacation together, especially if you're saying something's not working, we're trying to work things through, really going with the open mind saying, hey, we're trying to work things through. So let's try to make things better. Let's have a good time. And then all this leisure time is spent in a positive way of spending more time communicating. And they found, the research shows that for women especially, that's really significant. Women need time to feel like they're communicating with their partner. And vacations offer a really good example of that because you have all this extra leisure time to just communicate.
Now, okay, I'm like, my mind's racing away with questions. So let's first, one thing, what tips would you give to couples who want to go travel to really go and maximize it so that way they could really improve the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Manage expectations. I think for me, like Kelly's the one that she's the guru at it. She's amazing. 9 times out of 10, she asks me to bring a decent attitude. And
that's what I always tell them. I said, I'll plan it. You just bring a decent attitude.
it kind of started when, I can't even remember what trip. It might've just been going down to Colorado Springs to go see family for Christmas, of just bringing a decent attitude. But it's kind of stuck because I think it's a silly phrase that has a lot of power to it. When we went to Paris, I don't love museums. We went to the Louvre, and oh my heavens, I'm amazed at the amount of stuff that's in that museum. And you're looking, you're like, your mind is blown at all of these masterpieces of art. And I mean, it's mind blowing. If you've ever been, it's just overwhelming. I really hate museums. I really do not like it. So when I went to the Louvre for 2 days, had to go do that, my mindset changed. I had to change my expectations of what I was trying to get. Kelly's sitting there reading all of the little details about the pictures. And it's like, I don't even know who half these people are, nor do I frankly don't really care who half these people are. We saw the Mona Lisa. That was wonderful. It was a lot smaller than I thought, and you can't get as close as I was hoping. But I spent the majority of the time with he was 6 months at the time, making fun of some of the portraits and the statues. And we were trying to recreate them in selfie mode. And, there's this one.
Cute. Oh my goodness. I love that.
It was an amazing experience for me. And I had to change my mindset of what I was going to get out of it. And my expectation of, we're going to be here for 2 days. I have to be flexible in my mindset and of why I'm here. And jointly, we both had an incredible experience that it didn't ruin the vacation because I was grumpy the whole time that I had to be at the Louvre. And I had a good time in a museum, which is amazing. So I think that's one of the big things with me is if I'm going into a vacation and I'm not participating, if I'm not actively participating in the activities, it's going to be a hindrance on the relationship if I go and I nitpick and it's like, well, you didn't even do anything to help plan this. You really can't be nitpicky of this. And I think that's the other piece of strengthening relationships that's important when if you're going on a vacation is managing expectations.
Yeah, I think it's also, I like that it's like a decent expectation. It's not like be on your best mode the whole time and like, no, not just be.
You don't have to plaster a smile.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think there's two really key parts that I've seen a lot with people that I've worked with and with ourselves is that one, it's you have to find some mutual agreement, right? There's some activities I love and some activities that Matt loves. Some activities we both like together, but it's about finding that balance of like things we like together or give and take of let's do a day doing this. So we're going to do a day doing your thing then too. So that that person feels respected, that they don't feel like one person sabotaging the entire trip, but it's also going in with the open mind of why are we going on this trip in the first place? You know, if people plan with the idea of we're not going on this trip necessarily to see as much of the Louvre as we can, like Matt was saying, it's so that we can spend time together, you know, and experience a new culture together. And if we lose sight of that, then we're kind of missing the whole point of the trip. And that's where I feel like the relationship gets kind of missed. And people need to be aware of is why you're there in the first place.
Yeah. Not like just checking off boxes and doing all these things that I needed. Yeah, for sure. Now, have you seen, it's a bit of like a crazy question, but have you seen a difference in effect of relationships with people who, let's say, just go to a beach place and like sit on the beach for a week versus going a place where they're like going skiing and cliff jumping and things like that?
That's a really good question. Actually, we were just talking about that. And actually what they're finding is I would even add the level of, you know, a big vacation versus what people call like a little vacation too. Like, is there a difference between that too? And they find that necessarily not. That if you're the kind of couple that loves an adventure vacation, you probably would be miserable sitting on the beach with a drink in hand and a book in the other. But some people
That's me. I go crazy from that.
You're like probably like one day of that and then you're done. You're like, where's the scuba diving?
Half a day of it.
Yeah, exactly. You can do that after you have your adventure. But some people thrive off of that. So that's where that communication comes off and say, okay, what do I need from vacation? You know, some moms desperately just need the time to just relax and, you know, get a massage or, you know, sit by the pool. And that's fine if that's what they enjoy. But it's the hard thing is when one person wants the adventure and one person wants the leisure and finding a really fair compromise in between. But the idea is one of my favorite quotes is love is spelled T-I-M-E. And that's, I think, the core of it all. Is that it's this consistency in time. So whether you go on little day vacations or you go on big vacations, if you wait 5 years to go on those vacations, you're not going to get that consistency benefit than if you're going every few months, every year on a vacation together and just having all this time together, doing activities you both enjoy. So some people really thrive off the adventure. Some people thrive off the leisure, but it's really whatever your style is. And
yeah, there's no rules.
Yeah.
Now, having a kid, does that affect, I'm sure it affects your travel, but does it affect the relationship part of your travel? Because like you're so busy having to take care of your kid, especially when they're so little.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's even managing like on an airplane, you know, a 10-hour flight with a 1-year-old who is in our laps, you know, and trying to keep them distracted. We've had our son stay awake 36 hours straight while traveling before, which I didn't think a 1-year-old could do. I didn't think that was humanly possible for a 1-year-old.
I don't know how many adults could do that.
No. Caffeine pills are a parent traveler's best friend. They are great. It's really hard, but it's really about, there's times where we've had to say like, you know, usually it starts with me. Usually I'm the one who takes the first shift with our toddler and saying, okay, I need a break. I need you to take him for a few hours so I can just close my eyes and go to sleep for a minute. And you know, having to take turns sometimes, or as Matt said, certain activities, if one of us really loves an activity more than the other one of us will kind of take more child time so that the other person can really enjoy that activity.
Yes, it's more like bonding with your child than just with your partner, because if you wouldn't have a kid with you, then you won't have to like while one's sleeping, one's awake, and then you're not spending that time together. You're next to each other, but you're not like bonding in that time. Versus if you won't have a kid, then you could both sleep at the same hours and be up at the same hours and use it.
No, that's true. That's definitely an element of it. I think though there's something like so tender about seeing your partner just really care for your child though too. Oh, yeah. You know, that when your partner just jumps in because one, they're showing that they love you. So I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd. I love Harry Potter. I read the books every year. And when we went to London, I really wanted to go to the Harry Potter studios, and Matt, like, this is a perfect example. He really stepped up and he did like the little kid thing with Lincoln. You know, he took him to like the broom thing, and he took him to like go see all the things that the 2-year-olds would really like. And he just did that with him over and over. So I could read all the details and I could spend the time I wanted to, because that's something he knew was important to me. So we weren't together, and sometimes sharing those experiences, like I would tell him cool things to the same extent as we would have normally, but we had a good experience because I felt so appreciated by him doing that for me.
I think that level of sacrifice of, you know, yeah, sure, I would have loved to spend time looking at all the scenes were just incredible, but to see her be able to be in her element and totally nerd out on the potions room and Dumbledore's office, like to see her nerd out on that was also cool to see from afar too, while I am sitting there watching Lincoln play games and have a great experience. And that, you know, Lincoln and I, we bond together at that point too. And I think it's also that level of sacrifice that, you know, is, yeah, I think she knows I would have rather gone to a car museum, but at the same aspect of, I think that sacrifice does bring people closer together as well, even though it's not direct time spent together.
And when we travel too, we don't separate, like one of us don't go to different locations with our son. We still do the activities together. So even though it might not be as closely knit, we're still having shared experiences together too.
Yeah, it's for sure. She gives it a different like perspective on what's going on. And like when kids get older, then it's like, okay, now it's different. They have their own opinions also. It's not just what you want, you know, and it really becomes more of a family thing versus a relationship thing. And it really does feel the own relationship, like you said, now, when you come back from your vacations, do you have like any traditions or stuff that you do to really like bring that whole experience together?
One thing we like to do that my family has always done is they love to share pictures of the vacations once they come back. So because our families live so close to us, we'll often share pictures and videos of our vacations with our family, which is really fun. We tell them the stories and the funny things that happened. And what's really fun now is our toddler, because he's getting older, he'll kind of share some things too in his own silly little way of what's going on. But we're big foodies. And so we'll cook a lot of dishes from the places we've been. We like to share those. So cool.
So you're like menus afterwards, like from all over the world.
Yeah, it's so fun. And then we have those things we remember, like think back on those experiences that we had.
You really bring it with you. It's not like, oh, just a week in Paris. It's afterwards like, okay, now we have our dinner. And then like you could do like almost one day every month, a different country. And
we'll have breakfast dates, just the two of us, and we'll go get croissants and, you know, have a cup of tea and have croissants in the morning.
And while we're there to talk about, I mean, hey, remember when we walked into that the bakery and I don't know what I'm saying when I walk in, and I'm like under my breath trying to say bonjour. And it's, you know, and the other one is these pictures behind us. There's a company that has the local photographer that is there that can meet you and take pictures. And, you know, that's one of the things that we've enjoyed to do while we go on travel, because then you get the pictures of, you know.
Yeah, we always get our family portraits done, or the pictures of us done when we travel.
Where is your favorite place to take pictures?
Our favorite place to take pictures? I always like to have, in every place we go, some pictures that really show the place you're at, you know, so that you can look at and be like, oh, that was, it's
cheesy. Like in a park, but like in,
You want a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower. You want a picture in front of Leaning Tower of Pisa. Like, it sounds cheesy, but you want those pictures because those are the things that, you know, you can share with other people, but also remind you of your vacation. You can hang them on your wall. So we really like that, actually.
So is your house covered of them? I mean, like I see some a little bit.
Yeah, these ones are behind us are all London, but we do have a lot of pictures around the house that we like to do, things like that.
Pictures, you know that.
Yeah. And it's fun. Those date nights, we'll do, you know, those food date nights, or we'll go to, you know, a tapas restaurant, and we'll talk about, you know, things that we loved in Spain or whatever. And we'll look at those pictures, and it's so fun. You kind of relive that trip and relive those feelings of how excited you were to be together at that time.
Exactly what I was about to say. Like, you have that experience all over again. So it's like almost you could imagine and visualize yourself there. You're eating the food, so you're getting the smells and the taste, and like really, and then you could feel that emotion in you. And I think that could also bring your relationship to another level. You don't have the stress of like, we have a flight to catch, but It's the energy.
With the comfort of being home.
Yeah. Well, that other side of it too is just because I can't remember, a year ago, 2 years ago, a year and a half, Kelly went with my sister to Spain. I wasn't able to go. I was stuck at work, and even that trip that she went on strengthened our relationship too, because there's being able, just because she's away in Spain, she's going to come back hopefully. Then to come back and to do those traditional things of making tapas and doing showing the pictures and
being
eating the food
to share with you,
and being excited to share is also, spending that time together has been really helpful as well to strengthen relationships.
Yeah, I think that only proves the point earlier of if one has to go with a kid, then even more if they're away for a few days traveling, then for sure. Okay, so for our final question, how do you describe an extraordinary relationship without love, connection, and for you guys, I'm putting in travel?
So an extraordinary relationship without those things?
Yeah. How do you describe it?
Trust, love, and I don't know. I don't feel like it's possible to have.
Not that you can't have love or connection. No, no way that I'm saying that. How would you describe it without using those words?
Oh, without using those words?
Okay. Did I not say that? Was I not clear? I'm sorry.
We thought you meant a word.
You basically take the love out of a relationship. Everything
an extraordinary relationship without using love, connection, and travel. Sorry. No, yes, you do need those things. No. If there's no connection, I don't have any sort of relationship. Or if you do, it's a really dysfunctional one.
Yeah. It definitely.
Sorry.
You're totally fine.
Speaking of bad with words and languages. Yeah.
I think one thing that's hard is, you jump to the adage of someone who's your best friend. But sometimes you're not. That's just the way we've been together over 10 years now, something about 10 years now. And sometimes you're just not best friends. Sometimes you don't want to see each other for a minute, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. But at the end of the day, who's the person you want to share experiences with? Who's the person that you're willing to keep working through hard things with, and that you want to be able to rely on? When you go through things in life that are hard, do you have someone that you're like, I can rely on this person, and I'm willing to be the person that they can rely on too? Yeah. I think having that feeling of safety is important to me.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And when you travel, you almost make those hard things. They're not hard because they're in a really fun environment. They're challenging, but you're creating that space of challenging things in a fun thing that you have to go and work these things out together.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. First thing I just think of, if you can't use those words, is time and safety. So, you want to spend time with it, that, through the good, crappy days at work, and you're not excited to, not the best day ever, but someone that you want to spend time with, regardless if it's the best day ever, or not the best day, and someone that you can go and you can have be vulnerable with and say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling with this, and this is something I'm working to overcome, and I want to be better at, and I need help and support. And I think that not using that, but I think the thing with travel is you end up putting yourself into positions like that, of where I have to rely on Kelly to navigate in England the tube, because the subway. I can't look at the map and go, which direction am I going? I'm horrible with directions under the ground. Kelly does a really good job at it. When we're driving through the Cotswolds, I'm better at understanding where we're kind of at on the map and relying on each other. I think that safety we have in those different situations and with each other, and wanting to spend the time to and the effort to get to know each other better, even though we've been together for about 10 years, that it's, we're still going at it.
I think time and effort are key. I see that with a lot of the people I help travel, is sometimes the relationships aren't in great places. And that's why there's this impetus, this feeling that they need to travel, because they have this feeling, if we spend this more time together, if we have this connection, then we can get there. But because I'm willing to try. I'm willing to keep trying.
Yeah, I'm willing to try. Yeah. Well, I love that. Thank you so much. This was
thanks
awesome.
for having us. Oh, yeah.
Love speaking with you. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Life Picks Relationships, and we have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support this show, but also give others what they need to take their marriage to the next level. We're striving to have 1 million downloads per episode by December 31st, 2025, so please share it with your family and friends so they can turn their relationship into an extraordinary one.